Hello everyone, it's Jennifer McGuire and welcome to another installment of my favorite crafty things of 2013. This is a series of video and blog posts sharing products that I like quite a bit. Today I'm covering crafting tools. I'm not going to include cutting tools in this video like trimmers and scissors. I'll do that in another one, but this is just other crafting tools like for stamping and such. One of my favorite products this year is the footed press. This is a great acrylic block that you can use with your clear or cling stamps, and they have it has four little feet on it, which help with getting really good placement of your stamping. Now this is about 4 by 6. Make sure you get the bigger one. The smaller one is really hard to use because you can't fit an ink pad between the little feet, but this one's great. Now these little feet hold up really well. If you get ink on them by any chance, you can just wipe them off. But you can watch, you can kind of wiggle around your acrylic block. Once you have great placement, you just press down. I find this to be a great tool. I also like that it has grid lines on it. So here's an example of how you can get good placement. I have a little die cut hole cut for this little snowflake. I'm just going to ink it up and show you how easy it is to see right through it, right into the hole that I want to stamp in. And you'll watch as I slowly go down, you'll see that I kind of wiggle around on the feet until I can completely see that I'm straight above it, and then I'll press right down, and there we have good placement. So this is just a great stamping tool to have. I do like the Fiskars stamp press quite a bit still, but this one just seems to work better for me because of the smaller size. I also like that I can use it upside down. If I don't need the feet, I can use it just as a regular block. Now I do have a set of regular stamping blocks that I'm really happy with. These are from Fiskars, and there are 4 in the set. There's also a smaller one, but I can't find mine on my workspace right now. So it's got these 4 different sizes, and I like that it has grid lines on it. And I like that they're thick enough that when you go to ink your stamp up on an ink pad, you don't get ink on your fingers. If these are too thin, then sometimes you get ink from the ink pad on your fingers, but these are just perfect. Now there's another tool that I found recently that I like. They're a new pair of tweezers from EK Success. They're quite nice. They have this little cap on them because the tip is pretty sharp, so you want to be careful with it. But they clamp onto things, and this is great when you're trying to heat emboss something when it's super hot, or you're trying to put something small onto your card. You can grab a hold of it with these fine tip, and it holds onto it no problem. If you like doing techniques like me, this is a great tool to have because you won't get your fingers inky or burn them when you're using a heat gun. Another great tool for easy and quick placement is called the quickstiks. This is from Lifestyle Crafts, but I know Silhouette also has one that's very similar. It has 2 ends on it that serve 2 different purposes. One end kind of pops out here, and it has just a blunt tip, and then like this chisel tip, and then the other side has a super sharp point. This is great for getting your pieces of paper out of your dies, so you can push through the little hole with this end and pop your little dies out. But I always keep that end tucked in because I don't want to poke myself. And the other end is a completely different purpose. You just pop the cap off, and it's got this little kind of sticky stuff that squirts out. It's kind of like Play-Doh consistency. And look, you can pick up little die cuts with it. So if you have a super tiny one like this, no fumbling around anymore, you can just put it on the tip of this. And I'm going to put some glossy accents down and glue this on here, and you'll see that you can just put it right in place with this quickstiks tool. This is really handy to have. I had lost mine for a while and I found it, and I'm just in love with it again. Next up is masking paper. There was a product called Eclipse masking paper that I loved, and it came on a big roller in sheets, but supposedly there's problems with manufacturing, so I've been looking for something better. Simon Says Stamp recently came out with this 2-inch wide masking tape. This is basically like the sticky part of a Post-it note, making it perfect for masking. I was disappointed that it's only 2 inches wide until I used it, and I realized that on a small card you usually don't need anything any wider. So it actually works out quite nicely. So you can put this down on your card to mask off certain areas. You can die cut with it. You can do whatever you want with it. Now let me show you when I die cut with it what I do. I take some plastic that I cut off a piece of packaging, just any kind of plastic from some packaging. I put a piece of the tape down on it. Then I run it through my die cut machine like that. And then I go ahead, and once it's cut out, I just peel the backing off. And that's just a great way to give it some support and keep it from being sticky when you run it through your machine. And then you can use both the negative and positive space of it. So I like to keep that packaging just for this purpose. I have to say I've been really pleased with using this as a masking tape. There's another similar product that I use quite often. You've probably seen me use in videos, and I talked about it in the die cutting video. This is Post-it tape. Again, it's just like the sticky part of a Post-it note. It comes on this little roll, and you can easily tear off tiny little pieces. I use this all the time to hold a die in place as I run it through my die cutting machine. But I also use this to mask off maybe like a diagonal area on a card to ink over it. I use it to hold pieces of paper in place while I'm just fiddling with them. There's a lot of things you can do with this tape, and it serves the same kind of purpose as the other one I just showed you. It's just 1 inch wide instead of 2 inches wide. I wanted to quickly show you one of my favorite things to do with this Post-it tape is you can mask off words or parts of a stamp so you can ink them up in different colors. So I'm going to just mask off the word scrapbook here. I'm going to put some of this Post-it tape over the words above and below it, and then I'll just ink up the one word and stamp it onto my paper. Now I can go back and mask off other parts of the words, then go back and line it up with the first bit of stamping and stamp it on. So I can build up different colors to different parts of a stamp. This is really easy to do using that sticky tape. Now you could use Post-it tape or Post-it notes, but it's going to use up a lot. This tape is just quick and handy and less expensive to use. Okay, so another tool that I love is the powder tool. I talked about this on the heat embossing day, but I wanted to show it to you again. When you do, I wanted to show you an example of what goes wrong if you don't use this tool. Sometimes using embossing powder, you go and put it on and you'll find little pieces of the embossing powder sticking where you don't want it. See that white powder all around the edge? That'll look terrible when I heat emboss it. So instead, I first go in and I brush my paper with this powder tool. It has baby powder in it, so it's no problem at all. It's perfectly white. You brush it on. You'll see it on there, but that's okay. You can brush it off when you're done, and this will prevent the powder from sticking where you don't want it. So now I'm going to go in and try this again, and you'll see this time that the powder doesn't stick everywhere it's not supposed to. I've tried the little powder bags, but I don't like those because if you're doing this on white cardstock, the powder in those powder bags isn't always pure white, so I feel like it leaves a stain. But I think this one works much better, and it smells better too. So now I'm just going to heat emboss it. So I'm just going to heat it here, and you'll see that it gets nice, great results, and you can just rub off the powder when you're done. You can also put this powder on the back of a sticker to remove the stick if you want to put it on with a foam adhesive instead. Now the heat gun, I'm a firm believer in a good heat gun, and I thought I'd just share with you an example of using this heat gun. This is a new, I think it's liquid platinum embossing powder from Ranger, and it turns out I love it. I wish I would have tried this earlier. It turns out to be the champagne color. But anyways, here's the heat gun that I use. It's a Milwaukee heat gun. It's Hero Art sells it. I've had this for 15 years, and I swear by this guy. It puts out super, super powerful heat. It's a high quality machine, so it doesn't scare me. I don't have to worry about it. And it gets hot quick. So see, I'm heating from behind, and you can see it just heats nicely from behind. It doesn't blow too hard, so you don't blow powder around. Because it heats up so fast, I don't find any problems with my paper warping. If I do, I just heat it from the opposite side, and it's no problem at all. So I highly recommend getting a good heat gun. It's amazing the difference that it makes. I use it all the time for speeding up drying and for embossing. A T-ruler is another tool that I reach for daily. I just find it's so helpful in making sure things are straight on my cards. You can see mine's very well loved, and I actually have 3 of them because I use them so much. But you can easily measure out areas that are the same distance away, so you can make sure you get a straight line exactly where you want it. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite ways to use it, besides to check to see if I put something on straight, is to make sure that I stamp a long greeting straight. So I've got this greeting here. I'm just going to ink it up, for example. I'm going to end up heat embossing this. I put my T-ruler down. I know that's straight. So then I'm going to go in and stamp right up against the edge of my T-ruler. And that way I know my stamping is straight. So there's many ways you can use the T-ruler. It's a definite great tool to have, and it's very inexpensive. Next is the Teflon bone folder. I never really knew there was a difference in bone folders till I tried this one. It's unbelievable because it doesn't leave marks on your paper. So I like to make vertical opening cards. So what I do is I go and I score along my trimmer, the little indentation of my trimmer. I score at 5 1/2, and then I turn my paper and cut at 4 1/4, and that way I have vertical opening cards. That Teflon bone folder does the nicest crease. And now what I can do is when I have my card, I can take the other end, the blunt end of the Teflon bone folder, and crease along it, and it doesn't leave any marks on my paper. It does a great, great scoring job. Good tool to have. Since we're talking about scoring, I thought I'd go ahead and show you the envelope punch board. This is a great product that I love so much that I have another video that's going to show you more you can do with it. It's from We Are Memory Keepers, and this is what it looks like. This one tool makes pretty much any size envelope that you want from any kind of pattern paper, any paper you have. It comes with a scoring tool on the side, but I'm going to use my own. The nice thing about this is the instructions are right up on the top left, so it keeps it very simple. And then there's a chart on the bottom, so pretty much you look up any size card that you want to make an envelope for. You just look at the chart and it tells you what to cut your paper size to and where to do your first score line. And then from there it's super fast and easy. So you can see all the different sizes all the way. They've got card envelopes that are super small, like for a gift card, to super big. Now for an A2 card, which is the basic size card that we make, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, it tells you to cut your paper to 8 1/8 by 8 1/8. So I've cut a piece of paper to that size. And it tells you your first score line should be at 3 3/4. This is so easy because I'm just reading it right off this chart. So I've got my paper cut. Now you'll see up here I'm lining my paper up with 3 3/4. That's the only time I need to remember that number. So what I'm going to do is press this button to punch it. And then I'm going to take my scoring tool, you could use the one included, and I put it right in that little hole. I'm going to tilt it up so you can see. I'm going to put it right in this hole, and then I'm going to pull it straight diagonally down along the scoring line that they have on their board. Okay, so I punched and scored. Now I'm going to rotate it and do the exact same thing again. I'm going to line up my scored line. It's easier to see in person with that point sticking out. So I'm going to go ahead and score along that diagonal line, and I'm going to punch. So I'm going to do this on all 4 sides. So I'm punching it now, scoring it. Now I'm going to turn it and do it again. So I'm lining up that point with the scored line. So every time you just line up that scored line point. The only time you need to measure on the side there was with the first punch. So I'm repeating this with all 4 sides. And then I have my piece ready to go to turn into an envelope. There's one more thing. If you flip the punch board around, you can put your paper in this side and it rounds the corners of the envelope for you. So it just gives it a nice finished edge. So I'm going to go ahead and do this to all 4 corners of the piece that we've cut. Then I'm going to go through and just kind of press along all of the scored lines so it's easier to put our envelope together. Then it's time to close this bad boy shut. So I'm going to put some adhesive on one edge of the small flap, and I'll do it on the other small flap edge, so you'll see right here. And then I'll take one of the big flaps and fold it over, and there we have an envelope. Now this envelope for this card size is a little bit wider than our average card. Usually it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but you'll see it fits in perfect with a little bit of room to spare on the width, which is nice because you can have something hanging off your card and it'll still fit into the envelope. So this is a great tool to have, and if you're a card maker, I can't think of anything better than an envelope punch board. Next up is the Anywhere hole punch. Now I had one of these a long time ago. I think it was called a Japanese hole punch, but finally I found one that's even better. So this one, I think it's from Martha Stewart. It has all the little different hole size pieces stored into the cap, so you don't have to lose anything, which I was doing before with my old one. You unscrew the tip, you put one of the hole punch pieces into it, and you just take this and you press it right onto your paper. It kind of pushes down and it punches a hole anywhere on your paper. You want to do this on a cutting mat or on a piece of chipboard so you don't damage your surface underneath. Then you can switch out and put in another tip, just screw it in tight, and this one will punch smaller holes, so it has 3 size holes that it'll do. I love this tool. Another tool that I think is great to have for card making is a good water brush. I like the detail brush from Ranger. I use this for all my watercolors, for my distress markers, for pretty much anything. So here's some distress marker. This brush is filled with marker. I'm just blending out. But I actually don't usually use the water in the brush. I actually just squirt water onto my work surface and pick it up with the brush. I just find better control that way. But it's up to you how you use it. And in between colors, I just wipe it off with a baby wipe. Quick and easy to do, and I really like this water brush from Ranger. Now I'm a sucker for a good technique, and distress inks are great for providing just that. So I love the ink blending tool. I always use this with my distress ink, but you could use it with other inks if you wanted to. And you just take, this is the ink blending tool, it's got a foam piece on it, and you just start off the paper and slowly work your way onto the paper, causing it to blend real nicely. And you can blend colors together, get really smooth results. Now this is a foam piece on here, so you can take this foam off and switch to another color if you wanted to. There's a Velcro underneath here so that you can easily take it on and off. If you want to, you can put a piece of Velcro on the bottom of your ink pad and store that foam there so that you can use it quickly in the future and switch out with the ink applicator, and it just pops right back on. Now, if you have an old ink applicator, the Velcro may have come off once in a while. I just staple gun mine on, but they all come that way now, so you don't have to worry about that if you get a new one. But I love ink applicators, especially with distress ink. It's a great way to get good blended color. Now, you may have noticed in all of my videos I work on a craft sheet. It's a product from Ranger that is made of Teflon, and it's perfect to work on, to do techniques on. It's easy to clean up. It's just a great technique surface for stamping. Well, I have mine attached to this mat so that I can quickly put it aside or bring it back out, and it doesn't get crumpled. The craft sheet is kind of fragile. You don't want to get folds in it because it'll leave a mark. So this is a great way to keep it nice and in place, and it's got this little hook on the side so I can hang it up in my cabinet when I'm not using it. So this do-it-yourself craft sheet mat, I actually did using a silhouette cutting mat for the digital die cutting machine. I took a silhouette cutting mat that was originally it's for a 12-inch by 24-inch mat, and I'm going to cut this down and make it work with a craft sheet. So I'm never going to use this on my silhouette mat. It's just what I found that seemed to work really well because it's sticky. This whole surface here is sticky, so I can stick my craft sheet to it and leave it there. So I'm going to take my craft sheet. This is from Ranger. I think this is 15 by 18 inches, and I'm going to line it up on the edge here. So I'm lining up against with the top edge and then the edge where the sticky starts, where all that grid is on the silhouette mat. And I'm going to roll my craft sheet out on it. And I'm just going to push away any of the air bubbles there might be. Now, the silhouette mat is going to hang out the side over to the right, so I'm going to cut off all that extra. Again, I'm just using the silhouette mat as a holder for my craft sheet. So I'm going to cut the end off, and then on the bottom part of my craft sheet will be hanging off, so I'll just cut that off too. So now all of my craft sheet is nicely mounted temporarily to this silhouette mat, and I love it. So I just have a craft sheet mat now. So I'm going to round the corners so it stays nice and true. Now, one thing is the craft sheet from Ranger is heat resistant, but I never put heat on mine, so putting it on this plastic backing is no problem. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears to pens. I definitely need to talk about the pens that I like to use. There's two, the black and the white. For black, I like to use the Copic Multi-Liner 0.3 size. I think it's a good tip. And I find I use this black pen for whenever I stamp a greeting in black and it doesn't stamp completely. It's a great pen to use. Nice, high quality, and you can use it with your Copics and they won't bleed. Then for the white pen, I like the Uniball Signo Broad pen. If you draw slowly, it just does nice, bright white. And I just like to use it for filling in white embossing that doesn't work so well, or just little highlights. Now, if your pen seems to be kind of dying on you, just warm it up by scribbling on your skin, and it usually will get started right back up. Now, I just want to talk a moment about cleanup. What I like to use often to clean up my craft sheet and also my hands, like say I get Copic marker on them, is I use these little alcohol swabs. I buy them on Amazon in bulk. You can find them at pharmacies too. And it's a great way to clean up any ink buildup on your acrylic blocks or to quickly clean off your craft sheet. So that's some Copic marker that I have on my craft sheet there. I just go in with this alcohol swab and just rub it right off. It'll take it right off. Then I clean that up with a baby wipe and I'm good to go. It's just a good way to clean things up. It seems to work with most everything that I want to use. Now for my hands, people talk about their hands getting all inky, and if you see my videos, my hands are pretty much inky all the time. There's the Ranger Craft Scrubbie. You just wash your hands with this, and it's kind of like a pumice stone. You just wash your hands with soap and just rubbing this on it, and it'll take the ink right off. It works perfectly. So there you have it, all my favorite crafting tools. I promise I'll cover my favorite cutting tools in a soon video. If you are interested in any of the products that I talked about here, you can read my YouTube description below. It has links to everything. Also, be sure to head over to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com. I'll have much more there, including the rest of my favorite crafty things video and blog post series. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next video.